Hello and welcome to another episode of Fridays with the Chakontas. And I'm Mr. Chakonta.
And I'm Mrs. Chakonta.
And we're continuing with our review of blue therapy in love or toxic.
Toxic.
Untoxic, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this is episode 3 that we're going to be reviewing.
Yeah.
And on our episodes, on our podcast of Friday with the Chakontas, this is episode 9.
Mm-hmm.
So, yes. So, it was an intense episode.
It was. There was a lot going on, wasn't there?
I know. And yeah, so where do you want to start?
Oh, I don't know. Maybe let's start on something a bit lighter.
Yeah.
The new couple, Tang and Temi.
On the end of the old, is it the old episode or is it just in
I think it's still in this episode that we say bye-bye to Lauren and Michael.
I don't know if it's bye-bye, but I think for now.
Yeah, bye for now.
But for now, there's like Lauren and Michael said they're okay.
Yeah, they don't feel like they need therapy.
Okay, let's touch on them because there were some things that came out from that session.
Yeah.
And I think from that session, one of the things that came out from the session was Lauren and Michael had an exercise that Lauren failed.
Yes.
And because of that, Michael was ready to tell in therapy.
He was. The point they discussed, because before I think in episode 2, although we hadn't addressed it, they discussed and she was like, please don't tell. And he was like, okay.
Yeah.
But then he was ready to let it out in therapy.
Yeah. And I think what Michael was saying was he feels that he can be able to speak his mind in therapy than outside therapy. But I think now that's bugging Lauren because Lauren is saying we can't even have a conversation.
Yeah.
And everything, we just basically have to do everything in therapy.
Exactly.
And I think she became very aggressive and trying to say, oh, so does that mean we're going to do X amount of A, B, C, D? And yeah. So that was just her frustrations. You could see that those were her frustrations coming out.
And understandably, because if you think about it, I mean, you most likely they spend a lot more time together than the time they spend in therapy. Let's say therapy is once a week or twice a week or an hour or 2 hours. So it means that every conversation that you want to have, you're like, no, we'll talk about it in therapy. But I think it's also looking at it from Michael's point, because I don't think Lauren heard him because she didn't address it, or I didn't feel like she addressed it enough, because he said every time we try and have a conversation, you just basically go off on one. So it's almost like he's tried to bring up conversations, but her response has shut him down. It doesn't appear that this is how he always used to be. Like, you know, he always used to withhold saying how he feels about certain things, apart from obviously the last part that we find out about. But it seems like he's tried, but she's always, you know, been defensive, or whatever she's done has shut him down. And now he's more comfortable having this conversation when there's an intermediator. Yeah,
before we just continue, I forgot to put the disclaimer.
What's the disclaimer?
We're not promoting this. We're not promoting this show.
No.
We're basically
some of the things.
Yeah, we're not saying that if you're a believer, we're not promoting it, or anybody, we're not promoting it. We're just reviewing it from a biblical perspective.
Yeah. And
trying to see how we can be discerning whenever we watch something. And I think this is something that we need to do as believers, because this is what's where we spend our time either watching certain things or being in certain issues that are like similar to what we're seeing on TV in our culture. And we need to respond to those things from a biblical perspective.
Yes.
So continue.
Oh no, I think that's it. And on that point, I was just saying that, because you started it and I was just adding that it's a two-way thing. It's not just about talking about it in therapy, but also understanding why does your partner keep wanting to talk about it in therapy. So I think their key issues maybe I don't know, I think communication on his part, but I think also on her part, it seems like she might not listen fully, because even in the sessions, you can see that she appears quite quick to speak. Yeah,
and slow to listen.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think also with Michael, it can come to be a point of where he feels that it feels like, I think it can be, I can also understand on Lauren's side where he feels like, are you just taking notes on everything that I do wrong so that we can talk about it in therapy?
Yeah.
And it feels very uncomfortable as somebody, I'm living with somebody. And then on top of that, it just feels like I'm being put in a position of where somebody's investigating every step, and I think if I do something wrong, this is gonna come out
You're
in
gonna
therapy.
bring it in therapy.
Yes. And we don't know the dynamics of these relationships. We're assuming they're just boyfriend and girlfriend, and which is something we don't accept or endorse about cohabitating before you're married. And I think this is another thing, the dynamics of where it comes with an aspect of where you are in the space of where you're trying to be invulnerable without commitment, and because of that it becomes all muddled up. And I think
certainly.
and then because of that, it's now, I think the challenges I'm seeing through all these conversations is they want a sense of commitment, but the commitment is not solidified with an aspect of us exclusively being together, either in a form of marriage, and if it's marriage, I think from a biblical perspective, a biblical marriage.
I think exclusively. I think they are saying that they're exclusively together, but I think it's without, there's no sort of commitment that we want from a biblical point of view that we can see.
Yeah, we can't see that.
Or them saying, okay, we're together because we want to get married. This is the plan. This is a way forward. I don't even know if they've talked about marriage, to be honest, between Lauren and Michael. I don't know if I've heard that.
No. But Michael keeps saying that he loves her.
Yes.
And his love is saying, I love her, see whatever. But I think there'll be something else that we talk about that will come out and say, if you love her, then what's all this happening with your family stuff?
Oh, yes, because Lauren felt that he hadn't yet introduced her to the family. And there was a holiday that he went to that I think he gave the impression or stated that it was only family members and no partners or of other family members were on that holiday, but Lauren later saw pictures.
Yeah.
And I honestly did not expect Michael to say that. I just thought he was going to say something like, oh, we're not on the same page, or I don't know, something else, something a bit more superficial, or maybe, I don't know, the way you dress, because, that was something. But yes, or, I don't know, I think he was going to say, the way you speak, your attitude or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah.
But he was just like, I've never dated a black girl before. And I don't know how my family is going to respond to that.
And I think this is another thing, especially with interracial relationships.
Yeah.
This can be something that you can't just assume.
Yes, I think it's a conversation to be had.
Even before.
Yeah.
Because if you're having all those things, you need to prepare the other people who are coming into that circle of, this is how my grandfather is. It's a bit this and that. This is how my mother is and all that stuff. And I think it also goes to the sense of like when we're talking about the issue about Meghan and Harry. When he prepared and said, look, if you're coming into this marriage, this is how we do marriage on the royal family. Meghan had an assumption of that, but I appreciate that he prepared her at least. But even though she did not, she had an assumption. She thought she was prepared, but it wasn't to that extent. And that's the same thing also on this situation. You need to be able to say, look, I've never dated a black girl. I love you, especially if you're going to use such things as love and you trying to make commitments.
Yes.
Going forward, you now need to introduce the other family members. And I think sometimes our family members, we may not believe what they believe in, but we still need to bring you to our family, and this is our family. As much as it is dysfunctional in a particular way, and I think he was shy about doing that. And I think Lauren felt, why don't you want to introduce me? And it was because of the rest situation, because he felt like even conversations that we have, I don't know what to say that's wrong or right or anything like that. So I'm trying to also learn. And in the process of learning, I'm also finding it hard. And I don't feel like if I had to introduce you, I'm afraid that the process I've gone through, and I've had to be a little bit sensitive about that process, you may feel uncomfortable, or either side may feel uncomfortable.
Yeah, it's just a conversation that needed to be had. I don't think it was very clear that one is black, one is white, or she said she was mixed race.
Yeah.
It's very clear. So I think that is a conversation they should have had from the beginning. How does our race, affect our relationship? What about our family members? Is there anyone in your family who might have a problem with this? Is there anyone in your how do you think your family views certain things?
Yeah.
And I think it might just be, you don't know why he didn't go into much detail why he was afraid. He did say, I'm not racist, my family are not racist.
Yeah.
But then you can also see from Lauren's point of view, and it's like, well, if they're not racist, or what's the problem? Why is it such a big deal?
Yeah.
And I think he made it a big deal by withholding information.
I get
Whereas
you.
and then it makes you question. You're like, maybe they are racist. Maybe you're just trying to say, yeah, but maybe they are. Maybe there's comments that has been made in your family that, that made you not want to take me. And to be fair, I think she brushed it off quite quickly. I think if it was me, I would have taken it. Or maybe they talked about it in more detail and they just gave us, a snippet of it. But that's something I would have definitely wanted to know more and to understand more about it. And also it might be the same thing on her side, it could be her needing to not introducing him to his family, to her family. So yeah. I think the take home message, there's a lot that we can say about that, but I think the take home message is, it's very black and white. So it should have been made very clear from the beginning and had conversation be had about it.
I understand where you're coming from. But have you ever thought of it from a perspective of there's certain things that are sensitive to communicate, and there has to be a level of grace, especially when you're saying, I don't know how to communicate this. And I've explained it to you that I don't know how to communicate.
Exactly how you've said it to me right now. That would be good.
No, but I've told you after the whole process, but you will be thinking about why I did not communicate it from the start.
No, but that's the point. The point is saying, babe, I don't know how to communicate this, as in from the start. I don't know how to communicate it.
But even though, what if I never even knew how to say I don't know how to communicate it from the start?
Well, dude, you're getting into a relationship. Hello, there are going to be some difficult conversations you're going to have.
I agree with you.
So I feel like there's certain things that are just like you get yourselves in an interracial relationship. I feel like that is already a topic of conversation.
I agree with what you're saying. But on the other side, I think you're looking at it as black and white, but I see there's a gray area here. And the gray area here is, I think sometimes you make it look so simple when it's not simple. There's some uncomfortable conversations. You may be comfortable with them. I think this is also about personality. And I agree, when you're in a relationship, those boundaries of confidence and everything, you have to be transparent.
No, I don't know, babe. Well, I get what you're saying, but I can't remember how long they've been together. They live together, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you're living together and your family don't know that she's black. I mean, come on. Like, that means you've also been, even in your conversations, somehow you've also been withholding how you say it, because eventually when you're talking about somebody, it might not be the first thing that you say, but somehow something comes. Oh, she went to get her hair done. I don't know. She was there for 5 hours. I don't know. Something is going to, oh, my girlfriend's a musician. Oh, do you have a picture? Like, how has he not shown them a picture?
I don't think they live together though.
Okay, if they don't live together, like if he has brothers or sisters, you haven't told them. I think one of the things that you say when someone says I'm in a relationship, excuse me, I touched the mic, is show me a picture.
Yeah.
So there's definitely something there about him that I think we needed to go a bit deeper in, because I just think that I can't remember how long they'd been together, even if if it's 6 months, if it's a year, if it's 2 years, that conversation needed to have been had. Like, so that means the family, no one knows. No, that's just, I don't know. I can't excuse him for that.
Okay. But in the end, what happened was they decided to basically say they don't need therapy.
They don't need therapy.
anymore.
I think they still need therapy.
Yeah. And I think what we can get from them is that I think there are a lot of things that they need to iron out if they're going to move forward. And I think especially those uncomfortable conversations, people need to have them.
Yeah.
And I think it also happens also in marriage. There's some uncomfortable conversations that people don't want to have with other people.
Definitely.
But those conversations for the marriage to be healthy, they need to
be had.
But I think I understand where the fear comes from. And the fear is about rejection. And you know what? It takes us back to what happened like in the garden, where like people, when they both sinned, and then everybody's just, it's like we've got this aspect of where we want to cover ourselves because we are ashamed.
Yeah.
And because in a marriage, you're supposed to be unashamed, naked and unashamed. But then something you do that makes you feel ashamed. And bringing to the table is like, I don't know if I bring my shame here, it's going to bring actually us together or separate, or it's like my vulnerability does not come with an aspect of, I'm not reassured what the outcome will be.
Yeah.
Am I going to be rejected?
No, I get it. I get why he was scared. I completely understand, especially when you come from, or her or she might have been scared. Like I get why that conversation is difficult to be had. I get that.
Yeah.
But it needs to be had, and I think the longer you wait, the harder it becomes.
Yeah. So anything else on that couple?
No, I think we've got quite a few couples to go through in this episode. They've given us quite a lot.
Yeah. Let's go to the new couple.
The new couple, Tang and Temi.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we've got Tang. They've been together for 3.5 years. Tang and Temi.
Yeah.
Been together for 3.5 years. They have a daughter. I think she's about a year and something. I can't remember, but she's a young baby. So cute.
Yeah.
And I think Temi is the one who initiated the idea of therapy, because she feels that Tang doesn't take her seriously. Like, he's always joking about something, and when she wants to talk about something, have a serious conversation, he doesn't appear to take her seriously. And I think that's probably his mode of conversation.
Yeah.
And I think she mentioned that he deflects a lot. So those are some of the bases of their relationship.
And he's not serious.
And he's not serious.
Yeah.
So I think we had two main things come out, but maybe we can just address one in this situation from their relationship, was about their, sex and their intimacy. I think where we have Temi, the lady, Tang feeling like he's not. Oh, sorry, I keep touching this thing. Sorry, I've got my phone in my hand and I keep putting it on the table.
Yeah, continue. Yeah.
So, is it Tang? Yeah, Tang. Feeling like he's not sexually satisfied. Am I right?
Yeah.
So he's not getting enough.
Yeah.
They didn't tell us how often is not enough. And then,
but he said he doesn't feel like he's had passionate sex in 6 months.
No, the question was, how long have you gone without sex?
Yeah. And
then he said about 6 months. She said no, but then he said no, like proper. So I don't know what that meant, but
okay.
So yeah, this is keep it PG, but yes. So he but then she was saying that she feels since giving birth, and I think a lot of that came from what she was suggest that I think even he agreed that it's since the baby came.
Yeah. So
since giving birth, she doesn't feel as attractive. Mm-hmm. But he's like, I think you're beautiful. I still think you're attractive. But she's like, you might say that, but I still don't feel it.
Yeah. So
then now they have a tug of war of someone not feeling beautiful and then the other person feeling starved.
Yeah. And what's your comment on that?
Well, I'm going to steal your comment, because I think the whole point, first of all, one, they're not married. So we know that this should not be happening. But, looking at it from a biblical point of view, let's imagine then that they're married.
In the context of marriage.
Yeah. So let's say they're married, because in this point, so let's say they're married. And this situation is happening, and it's quite common, and especially a lot happens to a woman's body emotionally, physically after giving birth. And I think there needs to be a level of understanding from men as well, because, scientifically, or a larger proportion of men have a higher sex drive than women. Yeah. So it needs to be an understanding from men that the lady's might not all go back to how things were, because she might have, she needs to develop her self-esteem or just heal from giving birth. So it might take some time after childbirth to actually have sexual intercourse. And I think that's something that men can be more understanding and more, compassionate towards their partners. Now, let's say now that time is not, it's not a long time, if it's not like, years, but it can take a long time. It all depends on what that labor was like. And I think it's something that I think men need to be a bit more, in marriage, need to be a bit more involved in the giving birth and in you're laughing. Yeah, they need to be more involved in that process, because I think sometimes you have a woman who's pregnant and she's just like, I can't have sex, like for whatever reasons, or maybe it's a high risk pregnancy and you can't have sex. And then so you're just thinking right after childbirth, we're going to have sex. And you've been waiting and waiting. And this woman is just like, I'm just not me. And there's a lot happening hormone wise. So I do think that this is something that needs to be communicated and talked about so much in a relationship, because he was like, I didn't know. I feel like there's something that Tang said, or Temi said, Temi said, I didn't realize how much you felt like I know I'm using the word starve, but I didn't realize how much he I was neglecting that element for him.
Yeah.
But I think that's something he can also communicate.
Yeah.
And in the marriage context, we're not saying that, the Bible just says don't starve each other. So if one wants, one gotta get. I
agree with that. And I think it's not as simple as that.
Exactly, which is why I explained all of that.
Yeah, but I think it's more on the side of, I feel what she did wrong here. She may have a justified issue of, after birth, I had all these emotions, but she did not communicate them.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is the wrong place for us to now start saying we communicate them in therapy. Because if you haven't communicated with me, how am I supposed to know? I'm just going to think you're just making an excuse about us not having sex.
Yeah.
And because of that, I'm just like, from a biblical perspective, if we're in a biblical marriage, I'm just like, the Bible says you're not supposed to be saying no unless we're going to pray or something like that. So what's happening here?
Mm-hmm.
And I think it becomes another aspect of where we're not communicating, and it's allowing maybe the devil now to come between us.
Yeah.
Give certain aspects of, I don't think he understands me, but you haven't communicated that to me.
Exactly.
And then on the other side, I think she's starving me. And then it brings a whole cycle, a whole can of worms because of the miscommunication that we may have.
Yeah, over it
to the point of where it brings, it opens a high risk of infidelity.
Definitely. I think it's something to you're right. Like we need to communicate it more. All of us, you know, even the husband, if he's feeling like, okay, babe, I know that, but I'm, it is difficult this side. I know that this is hard for you, but I am also really struggling.
Yeah.
And I think then you can figure out, okay, how can we do this? And I feel like she did mention a lot about her feeling tired. She's working full time. Afterwards, she picks up the baby. She takes the baby to bed. I think, communicating this and then, having practical advice for each other and say, okay, practically, how can I'll take, let the guy take the baby to bed, let Tang, and she will have some rest.
Yeah.
And therefore she has more energy. But you can imagine you've worked full time, picked up a baby, having a baby for 2 hours is full time. Pick up a baby at 5, change their diaper, feed them, bedtime, do their bedtime routine. By the time they go to bed, you're probably going to bed with them too. And then somebody's saying it's time. And you're just like, she's out. But this is something that you can both have. I feel like this is something that's quite deep in marriages.
Yeah.
Hence why I suppose maybe I'm just rumbling on about it. But I do feel like, why are you agreeing that I'm rumbling?
No, because I think one of the things, we're not trying to give advice on how people should do certain things in their marriage, especially in the bedroom. I believe personally that's their private issues, but their private issues also need to have communication. We have to have whatever is private between me and you. We need to also
it's private between you and me because we need to talk about it.
And we need to talk about that private aspect of what is not working between me and you.
Yeah.
And because of that, if we don't communicate that, we're now opening people into our private issue.
Definitely.
And I think that's what happened in this situation of therapy. We have to now discuss this in therapy.
And I think there's other things, she mentioned, and he was like, well, I'm really good. And she's like, no, you just get straight to the point. But again, that's something that could have been communicated between the two of them.
Yeah.
And you're right.
And
it doesn't have to.
That was one thing I appreciated, especially within our counseling. When we're talking about this, about sex and everything. I think one of the good advice we're given was said, this is between you two.
Yeah.
And you guys are going to know what works for you, what happens and everything. This is a boundary that only you two cross.
Yeah.
Where nobody should be coming in.
Mm-hmm.
Our advice can be at a certain point, but this is about the two of you. And I think that gave us it gave me comfortability.
Yeah, definitely.
In understanding that, okay, this is a place where I think I can be vulnerable in this space.
Yeah, and we can trust each other.
We can trust each other in those spaces. And I think we can discuss a lot of things. And I think because of that space, I think it takes us back, as I was saying, to the garden, where like we were naked and ashamed when they were married and everything like that. And unashamed, I mean. Naked and unashamed.
Oh yeah, I thought that's what you said, but maybe I'm hearing things.
And you see that level of unashamedness, but then when the devil comes in and says, oh no, we shouldn't trust what God said. Yeah. And then we invite the devil in. Something comes in, and then it splits us. And then we start to cover ourselves because we feel uncomfortable.
Yes.
Because we're saying, oh, I don't think she cares about me.
Mm-hmm.
Why did she give me that apple? Oh, the devil came in. I don't think he protected me. Mm-hmm. How could he let the devil come into the house like that?
Yeah.
And I think those are the same things, especially in that context.
No, definitely.
Of what happens in the bedroom. And I think this is why I think personally where we always, not personally, I think biblically, that's why there's an emphasis of the defiling the marriage bed. And I think also this aspect of people who are constantly doing these things out of marriage without commitments. One is a very complicated issue.
Yeah. Because
when you're doing these things, you're tying yourself to these people, and the tying of yourself can also be an aspect of where you haven't committed, but you're doing certain things, and then something happens, which we're going to talk about in the other couple.
Yes.
And now you have to deal with that something because you're not prepared.
Yeah.
And because of the lack of preparation and the lack of the aspect of commitment or working things before their time, becomes another aspect of now we're dealing with the consequences.
Another challenge.
And all those things. So I think that was one of the things that came through that conversation. What was do you want to add anything on that?
No, I think we've said enough on them. I think that was the main thing. I think the other thing, they've been given homework. I think the other thing was about him being talking to her about, because they're engaged, they're not married.
But I don't understand that.
Yeah, I don't get it.
Because he's saying,
what are you engaged to?
I told your father when I first met you, I'm not
going to get married to you. But then I saw a ring on her finger.
She said
we're engaged. So I don't know. Maybe we'll get more.
We'll get more.
Yeah. So we'll leave it there because maybe we'll get more of the story.
Yeah.
Is that cool?
Yeah.
Should we go to then? We might as well go to Sean and Ray because it leads on quite well to what we're talking about.
Yeah.
There's a lot that's happened with Sean and Ray in this episode, I feel.
Okay.
Because the last episode ended with in tears.
Yeah.
Where Ray, I think Sean was like, I would never introduce you to my family because of all the, the social media stuff.
Yeah.
She walked out. And then we then see Ray meet up with two of her girlfriends.
Yeah.
To talk about her relationship with Sean.
Yeah.
And also we hear a little bit about a close friend who Sean has mentioned that might have feelings for him.
Yeah.
And then I think it's so funny because when you were watching it, you were like, it's so funny how we filter things. Because how she described it and what we saw, it was like, she was like, oh, I shed a little bit of a tear. Like, girl, that was not just a little.
Yeah.
But okay. So I think that was one. And then another key point. And then I went back to the counseling, the room, they were talking about quality time.
Yeah.
And then they talked about something that happened. So which one should we address first? Should we address?
Let's address the quality time.
Okay.
Because I think what Ray defines as quality time is, I want you to take me out. I want you to do A, B, C, D.
Mm-hmm.
And these are the things you did before, at the beginning of our relationship.
Yes.
And I think we may have I think we do have this conversation a lot.
Do we?
Yes.
You and I?
Yeah, because sometimes you want certain things that happened in the past.
Oh, yes.
That you feel that don't happen today.
Yes.
And I think my argument to you is I agree with him, because I'm saying the things that we want now, especially when we had the freedom to, let's say, spend money and everything, that we are in a different space.
Yeah.
And because of that, I think that's where it's coming from. I need to think about our long-term goals. I need to think about a job. I need to think about the bills. I need to think about A, B, C, D. And I think maybe you ladies sometimes forget about that.
We don't forget about it, but I feel like you guys might go to an extreme, because I think also communicate, babe, I love you. I know that before I would take you out 3 times in a week. But at the moment, I'm trying to save up for our future. Okay, but you still take me out once. I mean, you can't be. I think the basis for them is, I think for her, it's like, we're chilling at my house all the time. At least you can take me out. Or maybe you can take her out, but maybe to a cheaper restaurant, or maybe go to the movies. I think like, for me personally, I'm not one about you spending a lot of money. For me, it's not about the type of restaurant you take me to. It's not about how expensive the bill was. It's the fact that you took me. So even if you said, babe, I'm taking you to Nando's, I'm taking you to McDonald's, I would love it. Yeah. And you know how I love my McFlurry and an apple pie. Done. I'm done and sorted for the week. You've sorted me out. So I feel like you guys are, sometimes you go a bit, maybe you want to give me so much. I think for you, you're like, I need to give her this. I need to give her this, like all these big dreams. But I'm like, whilst you're pursuing those dreams, I'm not saying I don't want the big house. I'm not saying I don't want the nice car. But because we're still living, I want you to still pursue me the way you used to pursue me when you didn't have me as your wife. I want you to still, you'd buy me chocolates. Bring me my favorite chocolate. When you come and see me, bring me when you come from work. I'm not, I never used to like flowers before, but now I like flowers. So you can bring me some flowers. It's not going to take, I think part of your budgeting should also, I'm speaking for myself today. Part of your budgeting for our future should also include a small percentage of our present life, so that you are able to do the little things. And I'm not much for going out anyway, and you know that. Okay,
so taking it back to the two of them. So,
you're the one who brought us as an example.
No. So, like, what do you think? Do you agree with his thinking and saying, look, I think some of the things that we used to do, I know you understand, yes, if we communicate, if I did it 3 times, at least we can reduce to 1.
Yeah.
Than not 0.
Yeah.
But for him, he's looking at it and saying the level of expectation is also too high.
Mm-hmm.
And I think when she made the comment and saying, oh, when we have to move together, I expect you to pay the rent. But where do you think that money is going to come from?
No, he asked her first. Yeah. And I think she wanted, because the thing is, I saw her reaction, because that's the same reaction I would have. Because he was like, when we move together, aren't you going to be expecting me to pay the rent? And she was like, but I'm paying my rent now. And then I feel like her face was like, but you know what? It's quite nice that you're saying that you're going to be paying. So that means my money, I can do other stuff with it. So I feel like she had that mini epiphany of thinking, I like the idea that he's going to be paying for all the bills.
But that
so I do. It does mean that
for somebody to do that, it means that we have
he needs to be working somewhere.
No, but we also have to forgo some things.
And that's fine. But I also think you need to communicate. You can't just stop and say, I'm now, and then I'm thinking about our future. But then again, it depends. I think this is why we now have this problem where you're dating maybe without a vision. Because you and I were on that stage where we were dating with a vision to get married. So when we would have these conversations, they were very transparent. I knew exactly what was in your bank account.
Yeah.
You knew exactly how much money I had. You knew what we knew where we were going financially. So there was no secrecy. But it appears to me, I might be wrong, that maybe Ray and Sean, Ray might not fully know exactly what Sean is working on.
Yeah.
Because if they're working on getting married, because now they're dating, you're dating to get married, right? You're like, okay, we're compatible, let's get married. She'll be able to also see that, okay, he's working towards a house deposit because we're planning to get married in 8 months' time, in a year's time. So we're working towards a wedding. We're working towards a deposit. We're working towards a car. We're working towards just having some savings. We want to, do you know what I mean? I feel like this is so hard for them because it's just, we're just dating and we'll see where it goes maybe. Yeah. Whereas if you have a vision, then those things wouldn't, for me, I if you told me, babe, I would know I knew what you were saving for.
Yeah.
So if we went out and we went to Nando's, or even like, I just knew, I got to a point where if I saw you spending money, I was just about, why are you spending so much money for? Like, because I know what you have. Yeah. So I stopped wanting the whole luxury or take me out, because now it was no longer your money I was spending. I was now seeing it as our money. Yeah. Because I'm like, no, this is our money, so we don't need to be doing all of that.
Yeah. And I think that's the thing about commitment, because commitment brings another aspect of what's yours is mine, and we share everything together. Mm-hmm. When we are in an aspect of where we are in limbo and we're just living our separate lives, but we're coming for these lovey-dovey things of which are supposed to be mixed up in the context of marriage.
Yeah.
And we're only doing these things in this aspect that has an aspect of where I need more. Mm-hmm. I need more. Mm-hmm. But without commitment, those things, it becomes a muddled up aspect of how we are trying to live in this stage of where we are committed, but we're not committing.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think this is
not fully committed.
Yeah, this is the challenge I think we're having, especially in this day and age.
Absolutely.
Especially when people now start being awakened towards the opposite sex.
Mm-hmm.
It means that now they have to exercise those, and that's what the world is telling them. Exercise your feelings.
Yeah.
And because you're exercising your feelings with immaturity, problems actually come. And I think that's what now leads to that conversation they had.
Yeah.
About the situation where they had a pregnancy, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
And through that pregnancy, I felt because they did not communicate, they also made other decisions.
Yeah.
And that decision was terminating the pregnancy. And that termination of that pregnancy came in an aspect of where it brought another aspect of, what's her name? Ray. Feeling abandoned.
Yes.
And then Sean feeling rejected or not consulted.
Yes.
And feeling like he did not want the termination.
Yeah.
And he felt like he could not speak into this situation.
Yeah, I think they did communicate, because we know that from that situation, I think maybe they could have communicated further of what it would look like.
Yeah.
Because I think it was clear that Sean said he didn't want her to go ahead and have the termination.
Yeah.
But she wanted to have the termination.
Yeah.
And I think probably we should put a disclaimer, because maybe people hadn't watched it or realized that we're going to be, maybe we can put it at the beginning, talking about a termination of pregnancy, but there was that communication to say one person, and I think that already that was going to bring problems.
Yeah.
Because they were not on the same page.
Yeah.
So one person said yes and one person said no.
Yeah.
And then Ray went ahead, and then Sean said, I didn't go ahead because I hope that my absence would mean that she wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
And I think that was also something to be communicated.
Yeah.
I'm not going to come because I don't want you to do it.
Yeah.
And I think although at the end, this is my personal opinion, although at the end he was like, oh no, that was wrong of me.
Yeah.
I don't think so.
No.
I don't think so. I think he said, I'm not for this decision.
Yeah.
I'm not in agreement with you.
But I think the problem here is we live in a society where it feels like it's only the woman's decision.
I agree. I was actually going to say that, but I didn't know how far we were going to take it. But
Yeah.
I was actually going to say that I do feel like as a society we have the notion of, and I think legally, actually I'll double check, because even legally, when you're consenting, I think 2 medical professionals have to consent for someone to, in the UK, for someone to have a termination.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't really think it's more, the consultation is with the mother, the woman.
Yeah.
So it's not the partner either.
Yeah.
Like the partner is not in the picture. So I agree with you. I do feel like there is this notion of, it's my body, I'm the one who's going to carry this pregnancy. I have the choice.
And that's wrong. And I think that's wrong, one. And two, we also feel like the society, just the whole termination thing, we feel is wrong. But also on the other side, it's also saying society has also enabled it to only be a conversation about women.
Yeah.
And it's taken out the aspect of the conversation of where the man should be in this situation.
Yeah.
And if we think about it from a biblical perspective, especially if we're not doing these things outside the concept of us making commitments,
Mm-hmm.
it brings a level of where we have to also understand that 2 people have made this baby.
Yeah.
And if that decision comes,
2 people have to consent.
They have to consent on that decision.
Yeah.
We're not saying that whatever, if it's termination or whatever, we're not agreeing with that. We're just talking about the aspect of the idea of understanding that those 2 are one. And the only thing that people can understand those 2 are one is in the context of marriage.
Exactly.
So even doing these things, this is why these things now come into play.
Mm-hmm.
Why people have to make these tough decisions, because they are basically awakening love before it's time.
Yes, exactly.
And because they are doing those things, now they feel trapped.
Mm-hmm.
They feel they have to do certain things that may not be even good in God's eyes, or some certain things that they have to now feel, okay, I need to now figure this out. And then now the selfishness kicks in.
Yeah, because we think, I haven't planned for this. This is not my... There's many reasons why people, go for a termination of pregnancy.
Yeah.
But, I do see, even in marriages, babe, in marriages, people do terminate for many reasons. And I think, it's a massive topic that we won't go into detail.
Yeah.
But I think the bottom line for us is that, we don't agree with termination of pregnancy because it's not biblical. We believe pregnancy is, someone being pregnant, a child being born, that is a gift from God. That's what God has given you. And so you don't make a choice to create. And although you are part of it, God just uses us. We don't make the choice to create. And so we don't make the choice to terminate either.
Yeah.
But I do acknowledge that in saying that, there are a lot of Christians who have had terminations of pregnancies, whether it is because they were already a Christian, or even in Christian marriages that's happened, or whether they were not a Christian before and then it happened, in their past life.
Yeah.
But I think the thing that we do know is we have a good God. We have an amazing God who is loving and forgiving. Mm-hmm. And that is not a sin that God cannot forgive.
Yeah.
He has already forgiven you.
Yeah.
So, and I think, sometimes we walk with so much guilt and shame because of something that we have done. Mm-hmm. But that you should not walk with that guilt and shame. That shame, that guilt is completely wiped out, like completely zero, like white, pure as snow. And I feel like we need to just tap into, the God that we serve. He knew that you were going to get pregnant. He knew the decision that you were going to make. Mm-hmm. He knew already before you were even born what was going to happen in your life. So when he brought Jesus Christ to die on the cross for us, he brought Jesus Christ to die on the cross for us for all our sins. Yeah. So even if you've made those sins whilst you're a Christian, it does not mean that those sins are not valid on the cross. And
also for the other thing is also saying, if somebody feels like because I've done this and I can't become a Christian, I think that's a very wrong way of thinking.
Yes.
Because they feel like God can't love me because I've done a situation like this.
Exactly.
And how can God love somebody who's terminated a pregnancy or done something like that? So people who actually got the side of said this is
I'm not-
murder, or I've murdered a baby or something
Yeah.
like that. How can God not love me? And the truth is, God loves
He
you.
loves you so much.
He
You
loves
don't
you.
even understand.
He knows that was a mistake, and he knows how it has affected you.
Yeah.
He knows ABC, all those things.
And he will even help you. And the thing about God, how good he is even through the process, he will even help you to heal. Like
Heal
he will
through
even,
it, and also
push through it.
and push through it, and also help you understand that was a wrong situation, and help you now mature from that thing.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
help you now grow. And this is why he loved you to the point of where he died for you.
Mm-hmm.
And he died for you and calling you towards himself and saying that way lifestyle you were living was wrong. But I'm ready to show you a new lifestyle.
Exactly.
With me walking with you.
Exactly.
And helping you. And also those ones who are believers, sometimes they may go through that situation of where they just it's just
happened.
a weak moment.
It's happened.
And temptation
Definitely.
has come in.
Yeah.
And I'm saying God is not he's not what's that? He's not ashamed of your sin.
Yeah.
He's actually saying, I know there's sin, but I'll cover it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll cover it based on what Christ has done. So
Absolutely.
come to me. Don't hide from it.
Yeah.
And all that stuff. And I think this is the problem of where people hide. And
Yes.
I think the other thing is also us as Christians, sometimes we're not very loving, especially in those situations.
We can be very judgmental. And I think we like to what's the word? I like to call it put in a number to sin. So certain sins carry more weight, you know.
But I understand where you're coming from. But I also understand on the other
No,
side.
I don't agree with that though.
Yeah.
I don't agree with. I feel like sin is sin. So whether I lied, it was for me, I don't see that hierarchy of sin. It is sin.
I think that's what God does.
And I think that's what we do to ourselves. So we are more comfortable saying, oh, babe, I'm really sorry I lied. But I wouldn't be so comfortable to say, oh, babe, this happened. Do you know what I mean? Or,
but do you believe there are different consequences?
No, I believe there are consequences to sin. No, actually, I do believe there are consequences to sin, but not that they're different in terms of hierarchy either.
No, I don't agree with the hierarchy, but I'm saying there are degrees of consequences to sin.
I see where you're coming from, but I've been reading too much of the Old Testament recently, and I've just been like, oh my goodness. So I feel like there are different degrees of consequences, but God chooses those degrees not based on us, not based on what we think those consequences should be. Like there's times where, like how the Bible says it holds, if you're an elder, if you're a teacher, you are held at a higher esteem. So I feel like if you did something, maybe your consequences might be much higher than somebody who maybe was part of the flock. So I do feel like there are different levels of consequences, but I don't think you and I would know what those levels are. God decides based on what he's decided and based on the sin.
But biblically, there are decisions. Let's say you give an example for an elder.
Yeah.
If an elder is basically now being put out of fellowship based on his conduct, you say we have to do it publicly than somebody who's a member. So don't you feel like certain positions have different consequences and responsibilities that for us doing this thing, there has to be a level of emphasis?
No, that's why I was giving that example. Yes. Like, for example, even Moses, when he didn't get to the promised land, when I read it, I was like, I don't feel like what he did compared to what everybody else did was, but because he was speaking with God, he had such a relationship with God that him just telling those people off, I can't remember exactly, but what Moses did for him not to get to the promised land, when you compare it,
was because of the leadership that he had, the form of leadership.
Exactly.
And God said,
so that consequence I felt like was harsh, because I'm just a human God. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
I thought was harsh because there are people who did worse things, but they didn't get that. I was just like, after everything that Moses has been doing, and God, you just say, no, you can't go to the promised land because you did not listen. You did not wait for my word to get angry, because Moses got upset. And I actually thought this is my human brain, I actually thought Moses' response was okay, but actually it wasn't, because he had such a relationship with God that he was supposed to probably await instructions on how to handle that situation. So God held him as such a high esteem that what he did I don't know if you get my point.
I get what you
I don't
mean.
know. I don't know.
It's the
But
same
let me
thing we're
just
talking
stop. But yeah.
about elders. It's the same thing because Moses was in a form of leadership. So his punishment was also an example to the other people and saying, if I can punish Moses on just a small little thing, I'm a serious God.
Oh, yes. Yes.
And that's the situation.
So yes, I agree. They're different. Your question was whether there are different degrees of consequences, but I think God chooses them.
And I think for us as believers, how do we conduct this thing? And I think this is where we have to exercise love, patience, and also an aspect of being there for our friends,
our brothers and sisters,
our brothers and sisters who've maybe committed those things and fallen away in a certain way.
Yeah.
Although there are warnings in scripture saying, look, be aware that you don't fall into the same trap.
Mm-hmm.
But I think if somebody is repentant, if somebody is showing remorse, there has to be a level of where we put our arms around them and
absolutely
say, we will walk with you in this situation.
And you walk with them. With them, and you know if you cry with them, because she going back to Ray, she felt neglected emotionally. So she needed somebody to who she could cry to or talk to about this, because they were saying that's the first time they've really spoken about it. That's quite a huge thing to happen in a relationship and not have had a conversation or conversations about it. And so, that's how we can be there for our brothers and sisters. You hear somebody has said, this is what I've done. You walk with them. You walk with them because it's going to be a challenging season for them emotionally, and probably, for the rest of their lives is something that they might wrestle with. So we're called to love one another, not to judge one another. And, we shouldn't judge each other, and we shouldn't be ashamed either, because God isn't ashamed of us.
Anything you want to add?
No, I think we've addressed that quite.
So quickly, we'll just what's the last couple?
Marie and Tunde.
Marie and Tunde. So what's happening with them now?
Oh, I don't even know where to begin.
I think Marie's basically saying that Tunde broke off her old relationship. And she was very complimentary about her old relationship.
I know.
She was like, oh, I had this guy who was a footballer.
He used to do everything for me. Treated me like a princess, worshipped the ground that I walked on.
One of the things I don't like about Marie personally, she was very quick to say that comment in the first episode. If you want wife energy from me, I will give you wife energy when you marry me, not when I am your girlfriend. But she wants the same energy.
Yeah, she wants wife energy
to be given to
her. She wants when she asks for something, he gets it for her. She wants when he wants. She wants expensive things.
And I think that is just.
I'm just
selfish.
like, dude.
And remember what he said is like, I bought her a bag and she threw it away.
I thought he said she just put it on the corner. Well, not that it makes it any better, but yes. Like, but then her response was, "Oh, but I wanted Chanel. I like Chanel." I'm just like, Lord have mercy.
And I think this becomes an issue of where like. This is to ladies.
What are you going to say about
ladies, to be honest, I don't know. Look, you guys need to have a level of understanding when you're in a relationship. It's not about, I know you want to be treated like a princess.
Yes.
But there also has to be an element of understanding that whenever you come into a relationship, you guys are helping each other. Don't be a burden towards the other person.
It's true.
To the point of where you're saying, I've got a standard and this standard has to be upheld.
I know. She wants the footballer level standard.
I know. And even in the context of marriage as Christians, if you used to live like that with in your father's house, please dumb down those expectations. You're not in your father's house.
It's true.
You are married now.
Yep. And you know how much you most likely know how much you earn. So I don't understand. And he's true. He was like, I don't know if he said she knows, but he's got 3 children. It's true. Mm-hmm. His expenses are more.
Yeah.
And so he probably doesn't have the same, and he said he doesn't have the same way, salary as a footballer.
Yeah.
So I agree. I think she wants, and it's like, when we were saying, I think she likes the money from the footballer and she likes the emotional aspect from Tunde and the love.
And that's very selfish.
Yeah.
She's basically saying, I can eat my cake and take it away. Or something like that,
in
the sense of I can have both.
Yeah.
And because of that, it now becomes another aspect of, look, that's another thing, especially ladies, when you feel you can do that and you feel like I can choose both, don't forget the other people who can choose for you and say, I can't accept that. And that's what the footballer said.
And it's true because but the thing is, even when she talks about him, she just talks about what he could do for her.
Yeah.
I know it was brief, but it wasn't mentioning, he was very caring. It was like, and probably that's the lifestyle she had, and she wants to maintain the lifestyle, but that's not your pocket.
Yeah.
Like on someone else's pocket. So then if he's not in the picture, sending you to £15,000 holidays, then do what you can afford. Why are you asking someone to pay for your £15,000 holiday if you can't afford it?
And I think
Look at me.
This will be something that will be a big challenge if they don't address it. And I think the problem I have, especially with Marie, she's very unapologetic about this.
Yes, she's bold. She's like, this is why you...
and she's not willing to change it.
But I get her point when she was like, you saw this. And this is what you liked.
You liked about this.
This is one of the reasons you wanted me back.
No, but there's a...
And I need to maintain this.
And I think this is another thing why it comes to the aspect we've been talking even before. Some of the things we need to understand when we come into relationships is saying, look, you've seen something about me, but we are in a degree where this relationship is, we need to fashion it where it works both for us. If we're coming with a certain thing of, you saw me like that and I'm not willing to change, it becomes another aspect of also what's the word? You are basically saying whatever I do should be accepted, regardless if it's right or wrong for our relationship. And we need to be able to understand that in the context of our relationship, things need to change. We can't live that same lifestyle. If I like the confidence of the way you were before, maybe confidence is not the thing that was needed in this relationship. Maybe be confident in something else, not the same thing. Maybe I like the characteristic of your confidence, but not the confidence of where your confidence came to a point of where it's spending so much money, but we don't have that money.
No, it's true. I think that happens in relationships where people are like, I like her boldness. And then you now see that she's too assertive and you feel like she wants to run the house. Or I like her, I like her confidence. But now you feel like, I like the fact that she can speak for herself. And now you're like, oh no, she's disrespectful.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think there's a lot of compromise and change. That
needs to come because you're in a different, I think it's for both sides. You are you are now in a relationship where you are now one.
Yeah.
Now you're trying to say, how does this relationship work best for both of us?
Exactly.
And if it works best for both of us is when we thrive and we honor God in whatever we are doing. Yeah. Because if we're going to just go where we were before, it's better we just leave ourselves and continue that way.
Yeah.
Because the union that we are one, and the oneness needs to appear in whatever we are doing.
Yes.
So yeah, anything you want to add on this?
No, I think you've nailed it on. You've hit the nail on the head.
Yes. So yeah, I think that's pretty much our review of episode 3. And thank you very much. It's a bit long, but thank you if you've taken the time to listen until now. Thank you very much. Yep. We really appreciate it. Like we say always, like, subscribe, comment,
and share with others as well.
And if you're enjoying it, just give us
a thumbs up,
or just comment and say something. Let us know. And we're really enjoying reviewing this, particularly looking at it from an aspect of a biblical perspective. Yeah. Like we said, we're not endorsing it because I think sometimes some people will just consume, but consume with a discerning eye. So, and until next time, thank you.
Bye from us.
And thank you for listening. Yeah. Bye-bye.
Bye.